Hi, Wei. How are you doing?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
Morning. Yeah,
So
good
from
afternoon
our
for
side,
you.
yeah,
Good
nice
morning
to
for
meet
me.
you here. I'm fine, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. And I think we are going to have a great discussion here. Um, just to tell you, we are recording the session because then we have a YouTube channel where it's broadcast. And
Okay, that's all right for me.
okay. Um, well, so far we have 6 persons in the room. Washington, Botelho. Just let me see here. Seems that there is any. Okay, this. Can we just wait 5 minutes or
No
so?
problem, no
Yeah,
problem.
okay.
Yeah,
Just
no problem.
because there are people coming. Out. Okay. Well, we're now presenting the talk by Wei Zhao. And Wei Zhao, Zhao Wei, sorry, Zhao Wei is associate professor at the ESSCA School of Management in France. He's senior fellow at the Institute for Pearl River Delta Reform and Development at Yat-Sen University, and associate researcher at the Centre d'économie de l'Université Paris-Nord in France. And before academia, he was marketing director of a Hong Kong real estate company and public affairs director with Carrefour in South China. Since 2011, he has conducted empirical research on China's industrial modernization and innovation policy, with the think tank established jointly by the Guangdong provincial government and Sun Yat-sen University. He holds a master's degree in sociology from Sun Yat-sen University and a PhD in economics from Paris 3 University. So, Wei, you have as much time as you need. I would say if you need 50 minutes or 60 minutes, that's no problem at all. And then before opening to the floor, I will make some comments on some questions and comments on the presentation. And okay, that's it. Thank you very much for the persons who are attending the webinar. And as I told you before, this will be available in a YouTube channel for later seeing. Okay, do you want me to share the slides or?
I have if you want, I have updated and clearer slides,
Okay.
so I'll share my screen with you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
can I start?
Yes. I think it's allowed to share. And
Yeah, I'll share.
yes,
I'll share with
go
you.
ahead. Thank you very much.
Immediately, so you can see my slide, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to make my presentation. My presentation is pretty long, and because it's as far as I understand, it's a whole story of how local Chinese governments construct the regional innovation system. But I will try to shorten my time to make it in a quick and fast way and leave more time for us to have the discussion. And any comments and critics on my approach, my conclusion, or my analysis, or clarifying of the data and the facts are welcome. So I will start if you want. I don't know how much time I will take because I never tried this. Maybe it's 30 minutes, maybe it's 40 minutes. And if you want to intervene during my presentation, it's also possible. Give me a quick question, ask me to clarify this point or that point. I'd be happy to do that. Okay. So let's go. And if there's any technical problem or interruption, just be patient, and we will handle that. So I shift to the whole screen, so you can see the whole screen of my on my screen. So what I'm going to do is I would present to you that how local governments, as I said, in a regional way, in a flat way, is that how local governments manage innovation in China. And this is the something of practice. So it's a policy at practice. It's not a policy at theory. Of course, for this research, I mobilized some useful concepts such as platform, ecosystem, etc. Try to clarify the situation and try to get out a model which can describe, can fit better the practice of policy implementation of Chinese local governments. The structure of my presentation would consist of basically four parts. First, I will give you a background, theoretical but also empirical, and then I raise the research question and introduce some methodology parts, and then let's take time to check the main empirical data. We'll focus on a case which is called the Nanhai district, which is a real case, and you will see that what happens there. Then some theoretical and practical implications and discussions, and my conclusion. The background is that we know that in the Western literature about innovation policy, and especially for regional innovation system, we have many sayings, many conclusions, many analytical tools. And I think that's one thing inspired me a lot, is this concept of constructed advantage. The meaning in literature for constructed advantage is to say that the advantage based on innovation development is really that each region and each country or each region should find its own way to configure and exploit its knowledge base, its knowledge resources, technology resources, and combine of the different approaches and try to work out a new path. So there is a process of creation for local actors, including local governments, to develop locally the economy and society and have a better performance, but based on the what we call today the innovation-driven development model. So how to exploit the knowledge using new technology. And then another concept which inspires this research is the concept of innovation platform. I know that we have a lot of discussion about innovation platform, but one point which is was made by a copy in an article published in 2011. He said that innovation platform thinking is a feasible framework for developing the regional economics. So it is the most inspiring point for our field discovery, field finding. It's innovation platform thinking. It's a way. It's not that you have for policymakers is that you predefine what is what innovation platform is, but it's a way. It's a way of doing things. Another concept which inspires us a lot is the innovation ecosystem. For the innovation ecosystem, it's a vague concept in practice, but we adopt the more or less the idea that innovation ecosystem for each project, for each company, for each innovation development organization, it's an ongoing and forever going process. And you begin to establish external linkages with resources, as well as that you have a physical and spatial spatial space, the geographic areas to develop. So those are the theoretical backgrounds that we have for this research. And then if we turn to the situation in China, you find exactly that the usage, the application of those concepts in the field of China. First of all, in recent years, you have the concept of innovation platform, which became a prominent concept in policy. For example, in a policy document which is called Construction Plan of the Science and Technology Innovation Platform System of Guangdong Province, which is the field that we are going to check. They even clarify that the innovation platforms, you have the three categories: R&D laboratories, innovation engineering centers, science and technology innovation service platforms. So you have definition of those things which are called innovation platforms. And for the concept of innovation ecosystem, it's the same. It's the same that in Chinese policy documents, profiles, you find many occasions that governments talk about the innovation ecosystem, to construct, to develop. And if you check those policy documents, you will find that in fact they have different meanings. Sometimes they mean cluster, sometimes they mean their own industrial park, district, city, even at central government level. When you talk about innovation ecosystem, sometimes I wonder it's the same with national innovation system. So it's a very flexible and vague concepts of the usage of the innovation ecosystem in Chinese policy. Well, but if we check the more concretely the concept of innovation platform, what does it mean in Chinese policy? It's very clear. The clearance is here is that you have specific organizations and functions or activities which should be included, which are termed as a platform. For example, R&D, production, entrepreneurship, networking, training, etc. And then the approach for Chinese governments, how we can have the construct an organization or firm which is called platform, is that we should have the original public institutions, private firms, or individual entrepreneurs. They should establish those organizations, more or less cover those functions. On the other side, governments encourage, give us stimulus to these organizations and actors to construct and to build up the platform organizations. And after several years of development, under the popularity of the terms of Incoterm systems, platforms, etc., you can see that the background of China has already dramatically changed. Now we can say that in China you have the big regional clusters of innovation, like the clusters around Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. And each cluster is somehow specialized in some parts of the industry and technological fields. For example, Shenzhen is very good. Shenzhen, including the whole Pearl River Delta region around Shenzhen, is located in Guangdong Province. It is really the heartland for internet and electronics manufacturing production activities in China, and innovation of new technologies here. So that's the place that we observe, and I carried out the consulting activities with local governments. That's why most of the data that we have for this research coming from there. Okay, if you have no idea that what the Shenzhen area or the Pearl River Delta or the bigger Guangdong province is, here is some very basic background. So the whole province in the southern of China is called Guangdong province. In terms of GDP and in terms of export, it is the biggest one in China. So we are talking about for many years the word factory, word workshop, which refers to China, but in fact, if we talk about the workshop in the workshop in the world, it is the Guangdong province in China, and so here you have the Guangdong province, and then the development of the region is very rapid, because since several years that you have the central government give the planning and try to integrate the cities, the big metropolitan areas like Hong Kong and Macau together with the development of the Pearl River Delta. So it's now called administratively and officially it's called the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Bay Area, which is the focus of development. You can call it a development pole in China at the national level. It's composed by 9 cities administratively, and the 2 special administrative zones areas from Hong Kong and Macau. Okay, the situation of the province is very important in China, and if we check the listing of the top innovation cities in China, you have among the top 20, you have 4 cities which are ranked very high in the chart of the innovation. So that demonstrates the importance and the leading position of the Guangdong province and its core area, which is called Pearl River Delta, in the whole Chinese development. And if you say this is the engine of production, this is one big pole of innovation, yes, it is. And about the question of research, our question for this is based on the observation of this field, of this Guangdong province, the Pearl River Delta, that we try to answer the question, how do policymakers in China, you can say in southern China, but I think that's, since it's a leading position, you can quickly use and extend the conclusion from this research to the Chinese whole country wide, but with, of course, with some modifications, maybe less. But the question is, how do policymakers in China, governments, use innovation platforms and ecosystem as policy instruments to foster their regional innovation development? How they build the regional innovation system. Talking about the method, I would like to check only one area because the Pearl River Delta region is somehow very big. So we'll focus only on one district. If you like, you have the, it's important to know that you have the, for this area, you have this region, you have the Guangdong provincial government, which is the province. Then you have the city governments, the prefectural cities. And then under the prefectural cities, you have the districts or towns, depending your urban area or rural area. And so we focus here on one district, which is called the Nanhai district, which belongs to the city of Foshan. The city of Foshan is a prefectural city in the Guangdong province. Of course, it is one of the important cities in the Pearl River Delta. And we will check until the very bottom of this Nanhai district. That means that we will check the very concrete projects which are carried out, which are encouraged and modulated somehow by the district. That what are their platform patterns, what is the situation of their ecosystem dynamics at the very bottom level of projects. And the data collected for this research, I would say that I spent completely 2 years during 2017 and 2018 in China, working as a senior fellow at Yat-Sen University, and I conducted the research projects, policy research projects with many local governments in the Guangdong province, because the research that I worked with was a think tank established by the provincial government. So we have the legitimacy to do the policy research with all the local governments. So Nanhai is was one of my clients. So I wrote the reports and work out the planning and consulted the district officials. So so the data is really based on my field work. You can say it's a participating observation. It's where I got this original data. Now let's check the case of the Nanhai district in the Foshan city. The general situation of Nanhai district, it is located, you see this is the Pearl Delta region. So it's in the very heart of the region. It belongs to Foshan city. It's near the capital city of the province, which is called Guangzhou. So it's very well developed. And in terms of GDP, in terms of growth rate, in terms of per capita GDP and industrial output value, it's I would say it's at the district level, it's among the top 10 of the province. And traditionally the district have already developed since the reform and opening of Chinese economy, many manufacturing sectors, including metal products, electrical machinery, automobile parts. One thing that maybe that we should remember is that you have the joint venture of Volkswagen in China. They have factories in Shanghai, in Changchun, in other parts. And then you have the third factory of Volkswagen in China, which is chosen as a location within this district. And the orientation of the production of this Volkswagen factory, it's a joint venture with the first automobile workshop of China, a state-owned enterprise, is electric vehicles. So it's really the biggest production base for Volkswagen of production of electric vehicles in China. So it is the situation of this industrial development of this city. Okay, so what we found after that, we observe and follow the development of regional development based on innovation of this district, is this model. I show you this model immediately, and we'll get back to it later. I'll explain it. But I would like to show you immediately this model. Otherwise, that's maybe later that it's difficult to understand because it's somehow a little bit complicated. What we found, in fact, you can call it a secret receipt, or the methodology or the approach of how local governments they implement innovation policy. If there is something called innovation policy, is that they follow a step-by-step process which promote the regional industrial development and technological development. The process concludes basically 4 steps. Let me quickly give you the idea of the 4 steps. The first step is that you have local government, first of all, target new and emerging industries, sectors. So this is a task of local governments to say that for our district, where we are going and what kind of sectors we are going to develop. And then once they identify and make the decision of which segments, which very, very detailed segments of the industry that they would like to develop and promote, they will break down those development of the industries into concrete projects. Okay, so they will attract the investors, business firms, entrepreneurs to develop some projects. Of course, those projects will become firms actors, organizations, institutions which participate in the construction and development of those of the industry. For example, a research institute which develop new technology, or a firm which produce products, sell the products, or a kind of organization which give service to other institutions and other firms. So this is called projects. So the industrial targeting and industrial development plan would be operationalized into concrete projects. And then a very interesting step is that when you have that kind of project, the government will ask you, will require the carriers or the actors of the project to adopt a model which is called platform. The platform model is something that the local governments and the actors, they will discuss. And the local governments already assimilated the idea to say what the meaning of platform is. So I'll show you that what it means to local governments. And then they try to impose this idea in exchange that they will say, if you as a project actor, you accept and transform and make your project under the form of platform, to make your organization a kind of platform for innovation, that will finance you. We'll give you the subsidy, we'll give you the land, we'll give you the policies which support you. Otherwise, we cannot approve your projects. Otherwise, you will get no financial support. So quickly those local actors, business people, business companies, they will say, okay, let's do the platform. We will do the platform. Our original project is that way. Now, per the request of the governments, and in order to get your financial support, your policy support, we will do our project in such a way. Such a way is a platform way. Okay, so we will add this function, that function, etc. We will do this method or that. And after this, of course, you have the new ventures which will function as innovation platforms. And then another step of the government is that they will locate the projects in a very concrete spatial location. Okay, for example, in a cluster. Normally it's a cluster, and then in order that project can continue, the firm, the new venture can continue to grow, to develop, and then the project and the venture will be taken care by the local governments at the very bottom level, which is at the zone level, at the park level, at the you can say also at the district level. We should keep in our mind that Chinese governments has a very long hand until the very bottom of the society and of the economy. So you go anywhere. For example, you go to a new development zone. There you have a government body which governs, which manage the land, the construction, the development, everything. It's the so-called local governments. It's not one government. You have a multi-level, multi-layer governments across the country. So they allocate the projects at the bottom of the local level, and then it is not the end of the story. The governments at different levels, they will do the same thing, but they will follow exactly the same model of behaving. To say that we target projects, we develop projects, we locate the projects in one area, but also they will bring in some supports. So you have, for example, for one project, you have very low-level governments which give support, but also at the same time, you have higher-level governments at different levels, which will also support this project. So the result is that you have the project which is taken care by multiple level governments, and then in terms of academic term, we say the ecosystem of this project is tremendous. You have a fast and expanding process of more and more elements and resources and linkages are brought in from outside of the local level to this project. so the project can grow very quickly and very strongly to at another level. This step is what we call the making the ecosystem of the project thick, making the ecosystem. So basically, we identify these 4 steps, and you have the first 2 steps, which are transforming the project into functioning innovation platforms. And the second big process is that how the governments, which take different levels, measures, and make the projects grow very fast, and their ecosystem bigger and bigger, and richer and richer. And this is what we call the thick ecosystem. If we check, well, that's the model that we find. The data, that's the original data that we found from the Nanhai district is this. If you check for the step of the new industry targeting, you'll find, for example, the Nanhai district say that we will make this our project, our district as the national manufacturing innovation center, because that corresponds to the national level development strategy. And our focus, the big orientation of our Nanhai district, is upgrading the industrial parks, building new cities, and developing new economies. Very big, and then make the big program of new global maker city. So you can see already that they have the mentality to say, we'll build the whole city as one incubator, one maker space. And then they say that we target several key industries according to the national level, for example, Made in China 2025, development strategy, etc. So they identify, but they identify for themselves what are the specific industries, and they should go. And at the local level, government level, at the level of local governments, for example, for Nanhai, when they say that we target those strategic emerging industries, immediately they come out with the idea to say we should, in order to develop those industries, we should establish platforms, we should build and reinforce the ecosystems of those platforms, of those projects. We should give them land of development and develop some industrial clusters. We should attract more investments. So already at the level of operation, you do not only have the big slogan and orientation. Immediately they think about what are the measures, what are the means that they can use to implement. This is why I call it policy as practice. It's not policy as planning. It's not only plan, but also practice. So here is the outcome of their targeting. What they target for Nanhai district is very simple. I participate in their targeting planning for the industries, so that I know very well their targeting of the different sectors. They target basically 2 high sectors and 3 new sectors. The 2 high sectors is one is high-tech manufacturing, including robots, working machines. The other is high quality service, including the finance, etc. The 3 new sectors include new energy automobile industry, where you find the Volkswagen industrial electric vehicle plants, projects in the beginning. You have the new materials industry, and then the third new industry is the new generation of electronic information industry. They try to introduce the intelligent manufacturing system across the other different sectors. Of course, for the local industries, you have also this traditional manufacturing industry, which should be combined, integrated in the whole industrial system planning. And then they say, in order to realize this industrial development, we should develop projects. And when we have the projects, we have the idea to make those projects become platforms. So here is, I don't know whether you can see this. Yeah, that's to make it a platform platform of development. So the meaning of platform for the local governments is very vague, very broad, but basically it means that you should have multiple players and actors which interact through this organization, the new organization, and this new organization should have multiple linkages with very different actors, research, manufacturing, but also service, etc. And also internally, the organization should be multifunction. It's not only production. You should do many other things. So what is in order to show you that what is what they call the platform, how they transform these different projects into traditional projects into new form of platform operating organizations. Here is one example. The example that I spent maybe 5 minutes to explain that quickly. It's a company which is called Daji, Daji New Material Technology. The company came out with a new technology licensed by an institute of research from another province than Guangdong. And the team of this company would like to create a firm in the Nanhai district. So it's a new project in using a new technology. The technology is a patented technology. It is about the alloy steel production, a new material, very high quality, high performance, etc. And then when they talked with the local governments, in the beginning they said that we want to produce the dial steel original metal and then sell to our clients, which is the mold producers. And then when they talked this project with the local governments in Nanhai, the Nanhai government's officials told them that if you only produce and manufacture and sell to your expected clients, we will not support your projects, and maybe that you cannot get any approval. We will not give you a place because we are not like of such investments and projects. Many people, they come to us to search for money, support, etc. So if you want to get these projects approved, you must develop new functions. You should do more than just manufacturing. Can you do something? Can you bring in some new technologies? So they finally, the companies negotiated, consulted other consultants, and then finally they got the result with the governments to say that, okay, what we are going to do is that we are going to, and this is based on the discussion of also following some suggestion from government, that what we are going to do is we are not only going to produce the dial steel original metal, but we are going also to establish a research and development lab, which continuously to introduce new technology, but also we already have another patented new technology of our own. So we will commercialize and develop our own new technology within this team, this new organization. But we have to recruit. We have to bring in the new engineers, the scientists, researchers, technicians from other places. And the government says no problem. I'll give you the environment if you can do this. And also they say that we will also make a amorphous alloy process demonstration plant in order to demonstrate to our potential clients of the performance of this new technology, because we are not only producing the materials, this new technology, in order to do that, you have to have new equipment or new combination of the equipment. You have a new process. It's a new process technology. So we will demonstrate to the potential clients our new equipment, new process. And can you, government, please, can you finance the establishment of this new plant? The government says, yes, if you do that, if it has wide implications of other potential clients, I'll do that, because they evaluate, they will not only influence the clients like the mold producers, but also the material factories, the casting accessory producers, and the part OEM producers. And also the company says, based on that, we also can have an alliance because we will have big connection, a lot of connection with all the companies all along this value chain of mold production. And we have the linkage with the research institutes. And in order to serve the downstream clients that we never expected, we have to associate with some firms of 3D printing service, which are located in Shenzhen. So the government said, if you are doing this, you have so many actors and companies which will get involved. We'll support you to establish an alliance, local alliance association of the mold industry, and you can play a leading role in that, but you also have some kind of public service function in that. So we'll cooperate with you. So in the end, and even they talked about some in the future, the sectoral venture capital funds, which with the money leveraged from the banks, from investors, they invested in searching for new technologies all along this industry. So you have, in the end, a new organization, a new project, or you can say it's an upgraded project than the original project, which is was just a manufacturing project. And in the end, after this round, several rounds of negotiation, replanning, redesigning, that they came out with a new project, which is very much corresponds to the idea of platform, an innovation platform of the government, because it has linkages with the technological sources, other specialized suppliers. It has wide impacts and implications of the players from upstream activities to downstream activities of the mold industry, local industry, and it has internally multiple functions, and it has the participation and support from the government. So this is the typical case that we would like to show to you, that what is called innovation, so-called innovation platform, concretely in China. Another example is, I will not go very much in detail, but it's another case which is about a robotics industry firm. The firm is a university established firm, established by a science and technology university in China. And in the beginning, they came to Nanhai district. The firm, the company is called Wuhan Huazhong Numeric Control Corporation, WHNC, would like to open an incubator. And then the local government said, if you are just opening an incubator, that is, we have already a lot of incubators. So why don't you do more than just an incubator? And then after checking the local situation, the company finally decided to establish a manufacturing company. So say, okay, since you have so many suppliers, we will not do our incubator. We will do manufacturing. We will produce the robots. And then the government said, no, it's not enough. We want more technological contents, technological development of your activity. And the company says, but I don't want to put money. I don't want to invest. I don't have enough money for establishing R&D center. The government stepped in at that moment. You have the municipal government in Foshan and the Nanhai government. So the two governments, two levels of governments together, they say, no problem. We will invest the money and give you land to establish R&D center with your manufacturing companies. It is your research center, but we give you such support. For example, 150 million yuan as the investment. They give you a label, and the name should be a public institution name, but it's not a privately owned company. You can use that. You input your human resources, your technological knowledge, and we give you this framework. In exchange, since we establish of this R&D center, In exchange, you should give me 10% of your share of your manufacturing companies. Can we make it a deal? So the company, WHNC, finally decided to accept the offering of the governments, and so they jointly, with the governments, the company and the governments, establish a structure which is called a platform, the Huashu platform, composed of this two manufacturing companies in two sites, and one research institute which has a public research nature or in name, but the results belongs to the private company. So we have a mixture of the. So this is also another kind of platform that we have. Another case is a typical case, which is from the Tsinghua University, and they established one institute in Shenzhen, and that institute in Shenzhen of Tsinghua University came to Nanhai district, also negotiated with Nanhai government, and with the support of Nanhai district government, they established finally a big incubator. The official name of that incubator is called Legal Innovation Center of Shenzhen Tsinghua University Institute. It is composed by one R&D platform cluster, by one legal science park, by one investment platform, and by one supporting program system. And then more concretely at operational level, you have the units, you have the very specific projects, organizations, and units working over through these different platforms. And it serves the domestic projects, the foreign projects, and also the local cluster upgrading. So this is the typical situation of this what we call the platform. But the basic idea is the incubator, and they accommodate, incubate the startup projects, etc., etc. So if you go through the local practice one by one, you will see that amazingly, that since several years, I think that since 2016, 2017, the year that when I returned back to China, that you find that most and more projects that adopted, supported by local governments were in fact this kind of what we call platform projects, or projects of ventures functioning as innovation platforms. You rarely have a pure manufacturing project, or purely really a pure research, academic research project. You always at the local level this kind of mixture of public function, private function, manufacturing function, research function, service, etc. And they have the multiple functional parts and multiple linkages with other wide scope actors, and this is what we call the business model of platform. And then the next step at the local level in Nanhai is that they locate these projects to some specific locations. For example, you have the new material company Daji was located in a cluster, and the Huashu Roboti is located in a cluster, because they say that we want your projects to succeed, but if you go alone, you will not easily succeed. It's better that you find your suppliers, you find your some kind of support service, etc. The best way is that we'll put you in the industrial park or the technological park. It's very natural. So they located. This is one way that they create the original ecosystem. And then another type is that the project itself is like the legal science park. It's incubator. It's a building the infrastructure of a cluster of a zone. So that is also, they give, of course, a big piece of land for this kind of project to develop. A third way to locate and launch the ecosystem of this project is that the project is very heavy, very important. You have multiple governments invested, involvement, and you have many universities, research centers from other side of other parts of China participate. So this kind of projects, they give specialized, customized policies and supports and specific piece of land to give you. You can give you a land. It's like a property development project. Then the government will help directly project to establish the linkage. So the government is the central part of establishing linkage. Without the government, it's very difficult for a private company, individual organization go around to say, hey, I'm someone. But with the government's introduction, it facilitates very much the establishment of the linkage with big organizations with other resources, etc. Well, so and then once you have this first step of locating the project in a concrete environment, normally it is the industrial park, it is the science park, and the local government has an idea. The cluster idea is rampant in trying to say, governments want to develop the cluster, and cluster in the package basket of the cluster, you have this projects, 20 or 30 projects, and based on this, the governments at the different levels, and remember that these governments at different levels, they have the power to govern the different levels, different scope of space. For example, if you're a city government, of course, the whole city is under your administration. If you are a regional government, the whole region should follow your instructions, etc. So the governments will have the intervention and implication on the project itself, because from the beginning, the governments they take care of this project. So you have the governments, they accept, first of all, the ecosystem as a guiding thought to develop the environment, create the environment for those projects. And also, very importantly, they develop they have the project of urbanization, how to construct, how to rapidly develop the buildings, infrastructures, the roads, the telecommunications, all the physical space in their territory. And when they do this, of course, they take into consideration of the project. And in many occasions, they even integrate those projects at the level of the industrial parks and the parks, science and technology parks, in their urbanization process. And also the local governments at different levels, each level, they are specific functional innovation policies. Those functional innovation policies are regarded with factors, the human resources, the financial resources, the technology resources, and also they also have some selective policies, means that they have specific programs to support the R&D, some specific technology, etc. So you have the governments fully engaged in the whole process of innovation development. Of course, the projects are becoming the actors at the bottom and pieces and units of the whole process system. And this is what we call this process of from cluster-backed to thickened ecosystem. Because in the beginning, you have if you take the perspective of one project, the project is immediately you are located into one site. You can have your ecosystem, a linkage and environment, physical environment, and with so many policy implications, with so many and wider range urbanization change of your physical background, suddenly more and more you will find that your ecosystems are enriched, become thickened. You have more and more linkage, more and more resources, and your physical space apparently is bigger. It's bigger, it's better, it's more modernized than before. So that's why if you go to China, it's, in the Pearl Delta, everywhere you find it's rapidly urbanized. you have the new areas so quickly. Within 1 year, it will become, before it's a rural area, and after 1 year, when you visit that place, this already part of the city. It's one new district with buildings, roads, buses, clubs, hotels. Everything is already. So they are building two ways. One is the physical parts, which is what I call the spatial parts of the ecosystem. The other is the linkage, is the resource parts of that. And it is not only in Nanhai, it happens in almost in every city, every town, every district, and the whole region in Guangdong province, in Pearl Delta is like that. And if you check much more in detail, you'll find the same pattern. The same pattern is highlighted by this titles. For example, for one town in Dongguan, another city in Pearl Delta, they have the platform programs, they have the innovation spaces development plan, they have the resource and linkage policies, industrial policies, which are implemented. Of course, those policies affect each project. Remember, the project is called platform project. Longgang district in Shenzhen, the same. Innovation spaces, platform programs, resource and linkage policies, and especially, I think that's the leaders in that district highlight very well the mentality of Chinese local officials in terms of innovation development, innovation policies. To say, for example, he said, this is a secretary of the district who said that we built the Longgang district as a giant incubator, taking good use of our sufficient land space. And at the project level, he said that we will provide all necessary factors to make project easy to realize innovation goal. Huizhou City, another city, in the peripheric part of the Pearl Delta, the same. Platform programs, innovation space, resources and linkage policies, and Shenzhen City. So if you go down the list, you will find all categories of innovation policy. And that gives us a very interesting idea, is that in Pearl Delta and for local governments, the innovation policy, you have a very, very important part of the innovation policy is the geographic and the spatial parts of that policy. It's always about where I put you, how I plan the land for you, how I construct the urban environment for your project. It's a physical and geographic consideration. It's not only that I find you a technology, I give you the factor. The space and the land is the most important factor for the development. Well, the result, I think everybody knows, Shenzhen, now we say Shenzhen has a strong ecosystem advantage in manufacturing, and that applies to each level of the government in Shenzhen, at the level of the projects. And at the regional level, you even have the regional government says, we now have the different areas, the Shenzhen, the Dongguan, and the Foshan and the Nanhai, etc. And then they began to plan that let's make an innovation corridor. And the innovation corridor is a big incubator, is a big innovation system. And we have these areas, we try to connect them and try to make the linkage of those areas. And so it is the result based on that you have already those local building blocks of the whole system. So here is I would spend maybe 10 minutes to quickly go through these implications. The model, overall model, as I said, it is like this. It is, you have the from the new industry targeting to break down them into projects and adopt the platform business model. And then once the project is established, it will be located in one area. Normally it is a cluster level, zone, park, etc. And at the same time, since the the different levels of governments, they all take care of this project, take care of the higher level, for example, of the city, we take care of the districts, different districts, what kind of industrial zones and clusters you have. The district will take care of the park that is located in the district. So you have the involvement of these different levels of government simultaneously to the same project, to the same level of cluster, and then that makes the ecosystem of the project thick, richer, and wider. If you go in detail, we can say that in fact you have two big process. One process is at this horizontal level. You have this process approach that I summarize as platform as projects. The local governments push projects to function as innovation platforms. Of course, during this process, you have the exchange between the project actor and the government. The government impose condition to say that you must develop a platform function that I can give you the support. Otherwise, I will not give it to you. That give us, sorry, I think that, yeah, that is give us an idea of about this public and private partnership, which is very much, I think, the Chinese characteristics. The government uses public funds, resource to guide the private investment. The government funds a project if it can prove that it has some platform quality, and the governments even participate in the ownership of some key platforms. In our situation of the Huashu Robotics, the government finally got 10% from the manufacturing part. But for the R&D part, the government has 100% of that part. And that is the implication. The other step, a big process, is what I call the making ecosystem thick. This is a critical part, as I explained. You have the shift from the horizontal transforming project to platform process, and then once you have the platform or the project which is established as a venture, it's already done, it's launched. The government policy, the meaning and the implication of the government policy shifted to the spatial part. Means that urban planning, creating a good physical environment and geographic environment for you, as well as that we have generalized functional and selective policies which will cover it. So that is also the very important part that many people, if you are outside China, you neglect that part. And the strength of the Chinese government is that you have the governments not at one level. You do not have, when we talk about, again, local government, it's not one local government. You have local governments at industrial park level, at district level, at city level, and regional level. Of course, they communicate somehow, they coordinate somehow. But the importance is that they almost adopt the same pattern of policy practice to say that I will plan the space. I will integrate the projects in my urban planning, and I will elaborate also the local innovation policy, and then to help this country to create. If you forget the ecosystem, the concept, it doesn't matter. You just take it as what we call normally the innovation environment, okay, the project environment. So what kind of outside external resources and support that can be brought to help project grow, and that is the meaning of ecosystem. So the implication at our theoretical level, because I read about the concept or approach which is promoted by Edquist and Boris, which is called the holistic innovation. I think that's the situation in China for local governments corresponds pretty much this holistic innovation policy, because functionally it connects the innovation policy, etc., with the industrial planning, but especially with the urban planning. So you have the combination, integration of the innovation policy and urban planning policy together to promote innovation. Administratively, you have the multi-layer governments. They adopt the same policy approach, and then you have the result is making the ecosystem thick, which is the synergy, really the synergy effect. And of course, if you have the agglomeration effect, which means that the project profits from the quick urbanization. This is very important because look, you have a project, if it's in rural area, there's no urban background. The talents, the engineers, they will not come. They say that I don't want to live in the rural area, distance away. I want to live in the metropolitan area. If you have a good city, I will choose to come, etc. This is very important for local governments to build up a good city, a beautiful city with the most advanced infrastructure to attract the projects and to make the projects stay in their city. Well, if you ask me, the conclusion for this research from the very practical perspective, without talking too much about the academic implication, if we go back to the very original question of how do local governments in China construct the regional innovation system, my answer is this. I try to make it as simple as possible, as short as possible. I don't know whether I achieve that. It says Chinese local governments at all levels use the platform as a policy frame to transform new projects to eventually function as innovation platforms. And then they deploy these platform projects in local clusters, zones, parks, to help form the project's initial ecosystem. And higher level governments then, with their interventions and their spatial developments in the region, will make the platform projects innovation ecosystem thick. Thick means rich for linkage, rich for a better urban area, urban environment. As a result, all layer local governments in China, in the Pearl Delta region, they construct together a dense network themselves. They are the key nexus, they are the key nodes of this dense network, because they are the actors who leverage the different parts in the whole network. The network connects all kinds of projects, institutions, organizations, resources, and linkages to all layers of policies, actors, and spaces. And this is what we call, as a normal term, which is called the regional innovation system. Okay, so that is my answer. I try to answer the question, how do local governments construct the regional innovation system through the lens and concepts of platform and ecosystem. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? I finished my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Wei. This was really an impressive presentation. It is really, I think that we have many questions involved.
Yeah. Sorry for taking you long time. Or,
oh, not at all, because you had so much to say, and we can say that no word has been missed, in the sense that the message is very rich in content. What I'd like to just make some comments. many of the questions I had noted down, you have answered during the presentation. But one, I wonder whether you can get into details concerning aspects like the kind of things like collective action, the coalition, whether there is a coalition, and how do the actors relate between themselves, and also what kind of incentives. Of course, there is there are many incentives concerning the platform model, concerning types of financing. But what exactly, if you could go further into detail about the coordination mechanisms. Is that only a market-like coordination mechanism? Of course, there is this government investment. How does these multiple and diverse actors relate to each other in practice? I think this would be my main comment. And Antonio raised the hand. Probably he's got another comment. Maybe we could make 3 questions or 3 comments, and then we open to the floor. Antonio.
Moisés, I think you should ask Cavanha's questions first, because he left the question.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. I was thinking.
So why don't you read his question first, and then I'll go on.
That's right. Yeah. So Cavanha's question is, how are innovation teams organized, and whether there's deep specific knowledge required, or is the focus more on learning during the process? Are professions mixed in a planned way, engineers, biologists, etc.? So
yeah, quickly I answer that question. The innovation teams in China, you have I would say that's three types. If you want roughly, one type is the biggest part of the innovation team is they are from established companies. So you find that the new projects, many of the new projects, they are spin-off projects of the established big firms already in China, and state-owned or already private companies elsewhere. For example, Alibaba, they have also they came with an innovation team who like to develop a cloud platform for small and medium-sized enterprises in Nanhai. So they came to the Nanhai government, negotiate several rounds of negotiation, talking about that we want to locate one R&D center for cloud computing, for the big data, for internet of industrial use, for small SME. And so this is one group of one type of innovation team. They are very formal, so it's already people. And the other group of team, which are what we call in China the free market team. That means you have the entrepreneurs, the domestic entrepreneurs, private entrepreneurs. They search for new technologies. They are very good business people, and also they earned a lot of money for themselves. So they began to search new technologies around the country, especially with the public research institutes. That is the situation of our case in Daji New Material. The Daji New Material, you have the team which is composed by 4 members. The team leader is an entrepreneur. It's a private guy who already had opened several firms elsewhere, and he contacted a scientist in the Hunan province metallurgical research institute, and that scientist, he has developed the new technology. The new technology, in fact, he is the inventor of the new technology. So this guy, leader, ask this guy to join him, and then they they recruit one guy specialized in engineering, another retired engineer from another firm, and a young guy in charge of marketing. So you have this kind of free markets organization. So the team is like, and the team registered a company and came to Nanhai district to say that we want to, we have this new technology, but we don't have money. So the government is playing the way of the gatekeeper in the process of developing new projects, because the government has its own money. They can give you fiscal support. They can recommend you to the bank, because the bank, the banking system also with the government system they are under the same direction of the government. Okay, so they can negotiate, they can recommend you, bring you to the bank, and even ask the bank to give you the credit. So to solve the problem of finance, the government also can recommend you to any other. So this is the second type of innovation team. The third kind of innovation team is those. Well, maybe less right now. It's less, but during the years, it's so many. It's overseas Chinese returnees. The people like me, like other, scientists, in MIT, in United States, in Europe, they went back China, and they Chinese government opened special programs to give support to this Chinese returnee talents, to say if you come back, you can easily create your companies here. And these guys, when they came back, they normally in the beginning they are individual persons, but quickly they will use their social network to find their relatives, their old comrades, etc., and set up the team. This constitutes the third category of organization team. But I should say, if you talk about the different styles, I think the third one is very much a westernized startup style. It's like the Silicon Valley style of creating new firms. The second one, which is a free market domestic one, is very much a mixture of the Chinese private, the bamboo capitalist entrepreneurs with the state-owned old public institution employees. So they combine together. And the first style is a hierarchical Chinese companies, state-owned on big companies style of managing innovation. But the one last point for this is that I think that in China, when we watch this innovation team, how the innovation teams are organized, it is less important how you organize yourself internally than more important is that how these teams interact with governments. Because the key of getting resources, getting linkages, and having network, developing your project is to have government support. This is for everyone. I think it's super clear. You have no free market space to say I don't need to meet government. I just work in my garage, and like Bill Gates, like Steve Jobs, and then I make my successful business. So in China, innovation is pretty much a matter of government. So that's sometimes I even talk with people to say, for myself, I teach so many years of managing innovation, on innovation management, the courses, the cases in France for more than 10 years, 15 years. And I said that when I came back to China, when I say that I want to teach you this, I want to talk about this, and people tell me that, you know what, who needs you this, who needs your knowledge, who needs your teaching? Our government officials. So that's why I worked with the governments and even with some training sessions, and I officials how to manage the ways, the models, the approach, how to manage innovation projects at the business. It's amazing that at the government levels, that you have so many government officials, they are interested, they are doing such kind of training, learning how to manage innovation. It's like in private, it's like in the markets, because their job, their daily work is managing such kind of things. How to, where you finance the project. They are really get into at the level of project management level, not just to say I announce, I elaborate a big plan, and the big plan with the big plan of the strategy is that the target of that. No, they go at the local government level. They are the actors involved in project management and project team.
If you just allow me a brief comment on what you said, I was just thinking about the entrepreneurial state in China and this multi-layered organization, which has the Communist Party is very important in this high-skilled bureaucracy and the guanxi at different levels. I think this is, well, what do you say? This is something, this is a broader implication of your paper, which perhaps you could further develop this, this political aspect. Because, okay, what is exactly the grease in this machinery of multi-layered government? And then you have this highly skilled bureaucrats, officials with a management culture and that sort of thing. Okay, let's open to the floor, and I think we could bundle 3 questions, please.
Hello?
Yes? Yeah, hello.
Oh, hi. Well, thanks for your very...
Before you start, just let me check if there are other 2 questions.
Okay.
Could you please raise the hand? Then we can... Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you, Wei, for the very excellent, a very comprehensive presentation.
Thank you.
Your research. I had quite a long list of comments and clarifications and some more, let's say, critical questions, in terms of commentaries. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just want to ask a couple of clarifications in terms of more in relation to methodology. One, at the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned the different districts in the region, and I kind of noticed that there are, I mean, these are very unequal districts. I think 2 or 3 of those, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, they have a $3 billion GDPs, and others around 30 billion. So, and that relates, how do these different animals in terms of size and scale relate to each other? And so that's, if you could just clarify that. It wasn't also clear from a methodological viewpoint, why did you choose Nanhai, Foshan City, as a case study? It wasn't, at least perhaps I missed it in your presentation. Perhaps you didn't have time to go through that. And also in relation to the methodology, I think it'll be interesting in terms of the paper, to have a more fine-grained data about the regional industrial structure and inter-regional foreign trade and flows. So we can have a baseline to what is being targeted to evolve by the platform. Because I mean, one issue that I had is, I mean, okay, we are creating this ecosystem, the new innovation, innovation space, and new policy, but for what? I mean, what are they trying to evolve into what? To change what? Because you don't know what came before. You don't really have a good characterization, because this is a very heterogeneous sort of a group of industries, and of course, when you bundle together several districts in the region, it gets even more complicated. I don't know how to solve that in terms of what's your baseline, for the innovation policy. What are they aiming for? So these are more like a clarification, methodological questions that I had, and then I had a couple of more pointed questions. I've been following this whole cluster innovation policy, regional innovation policy for over 30 years now. Especially in Europe, but in the US and in Brazil. And there's a big debate, you know, I mean, I'm sure you are aware, your colleagues also know there's a big debate what's a real estate investments, what is real industrial upgrade and refocus. And it seems like the Chinese, you know, experience has bundled that. And there's nothing new there because the Europeans have done that for a long time, you know, putting together big parks and urban revitalization programs, you know, less in the American model, a little bit in between in the UK. So I wonder how you could relate, you know, to these previous generations of studies that look at, you know, similar efforts, you know, and how do you situate, you know, this Chinese case, you know. Also, if you could elaborate on the policy as practice concept, because you touched upon it, but I didn't see you coming back to it in the conclusions, and I think it'll be really interesting to hear more about that. Then I had a similar question to the one that Moises had, you know, how do interactions occur now? How do you sustain them? Why do the government levels cooperate, you know, because what you hear from other studies in China, you know, is that's a lot of, there's a lot of duplication of efforts, you know. At the beginning, you talk about that eventually this will lead, you know, to regional specialization or will lead to wasteful duplication. Or there's been studies that show that firms are over-established just to grab local and central government incentives. You know, just I've been doing, I'm running a project with the colleagues in China, elsewhere in Asia, and I'm looking specifically in this Chinese case, you know, in the marine technologies and marine equipment and shipbuilding, you see a lot of duplication of efforts there. So how do you know that, you know, that you're going to lead, you know, to regional specialization? Just the fact that you have a thick innovation system, you're going to reach a specialization, or you're just going to have a wasteful duplication? I mean, there's been a raft of recent studies in the semiconductor industry, which I'm sure you know is one of the targets of the China 2025, you know, policy, and that's shown there's been a lot of waste, you know, in terms of over 200 companies just getting to the bandwagon or to grab the incentives, but probably not going to lead to much, you know, technological learning in terms of semiconductor manufacturing. So, I mean, I'd just like to have your reaction to that. In a two more pointed question, and I'm going to stop and then I'll send you in some other remarks, you know. Also, because there's a long-standing, huge, you know, long-standing debate, you know, how can government pick winners, or whether governments know how to make risk assessments. You know, you seem like you're implying that, okay, not only one local government, but several then know how to pick the winners and they know how to collaborate. I mean, that's been dodging, you know, all the experience of the so-called Silicon Valley models, you know, over the last 30 years, you know, all the experiences and experiments of trying to replicate Silicon Valley. And so there's a huge debate there, and I'd like you to just to respond to that. And a final comment, you know, also more critical question is, what's new or uniquely Chinese about this innovation platform and regional innovation policy adopted by Nanhai in the region? Because I mean, it seems like, okay, I recognize, you know, everything you said, you know, in several other experiences in Europe, in the US, even Brazil. I mean, real estate, parks, you know, local innovation policy, you know, seem like the Chinese have done a good mashup of all that. And okay, perhaps they expanded on all the sort of the corridor, but innovation corridor, but several other countries and mega regions have done that, innovation corridors, from Germany to Spain to Italy to the US to Brazil and other countries. So, I mean, what's new or uniquely about this innovation approach, you know, of platform from the Chinese perspective, you know? And so that's are some of the questions and comments. Thank you very much, Zhao.
Thank you. Well, can I immediately answer your question? Try to answer your questions because you raised so many questions.
Yeah, sorry that I put such a large, you know, menu on your plate.
No problem.
But I mean, just respond the ones you feel like, and then we can. I'll send you some further comments, and then we can continue our conversation.
Okay. So thank you very much for this very interesting and very inspiring questions. Regarding the choice of the Nanhai district, simply that I worked with almost all the 9 prefectural cities, administrative cities in the Pearl River Delta. And finally, I found that the Nanhai case is a typical one because in terms of because if I can take Shenzhen as example, but it's too big. You have so many things, and when you have so many things, that maybe that you lose in detail. You got lost in detail. So I purposely I chose Nanhai, and the other reason to choose Nanhai because we have really the down-to-earth cases. Most of the down-to-earth cases that we have is in Nanhai. This was a project that we carried with Marcus and Tobias, because in the beginning that we didn't know that what happened. We have no idea that how governments managed all this, and we began to collect cases. And in Nanhai district, we found by accident or by random that we have the most of the cases at firm level, at project level, so we can have detailed firm level cases. So this is the reason that we choose that. And you pinpoint one point which is very important and very true, that yes, the districts in terms of developments, they are very different. You have Shenzhen has the highest level in terms of GDP, productivity, innovation, and you have some other regions. For example, Huizhou is very behind in the 9 prefectural regions. But the thing is that I think that's why we took Nanhai, because in the middle, it's in the middle up a little bit in the 9 prefectural cities. But if we take the whole Pearl River Delta region and compared with the Guangdong province, the other regions, you have also very huge difference. For example, the average GDP per capita GDP in the Pearl River Delta region, and with the average GDP of the whole province, the other regions exclude this Pearl River Delta, the core part. In Guangdong province, within this province, is 3 times. The people in the core region earns 3 times GDP than the people outside. And then, of course, if you take whole China, you have the 3 poles, which are really tremendous, developed level, developed country level, and the other regions very poor, very lag behind. So yes, we have this. Maybe that I should clarify that the innovation policy that we are talking about is really for those most developed regions. The central government is clear. They say that yes, we have the innovation-driven development strategy. They know that when they implement that strategy and the plan, it's always pick up those big areas and most developed regions to make the test. This is called make a test, make a pilot. And the other regions, because they don't have the condition to implement, they are still in the factor-driven stage of development. And regarding, I think that's the Chinese connection, the governments, what are the motivations, whether it is the replication. I think you are right. What I show here is not what I call the best practice. It's not the best practice. I think, yes, they are doing this. The Chinese local governments, they are doing the way that I described. That is because they receive the order and the plan and the order from hierarchically superior governments. Central government says, we have made in China 2025, okay? Can you develop emerging industries? Every province will do that. So every province makes their own plan, of course, adapt somehow to their local situation, pick up some key sectors. But according to Made in China 2025, you only have 10 emerging industries, basically. So 30 provinces or 29 provinces in China, well, how you pick up 1 or 2, somehow you have the replication. And the same is at the local government level. So in the Pearl River Delta region, for example, you have Shenzhen, which will develop a new energy car, which will develop the high-end electronics, which will develop a new material, pharmaceutical, etc. Then in Nanhai, the same. So they are targeting of the same sector, and they are implementing the same approach of doing this. Of course, the result is that you have many replications. You have many computation. Of course, you have many waste. You have many waste. So in terms of efficiency, of cost efficiency of this this kind of policy, if I really make a quantitative evaluation, I think it's not so much cost efficient. It's not the efficient, but in terms of the result, the effectiveness is, yes, you have the result. The result is in this process of replication and the computation, and the firms compete with each other, projects compete with each other, local governments compete with each other in order to get more resources and to protect its own projects, take care of its own. So the result is that you have the best, well, relatively best, who will survive, and the result is that, yes, and you have the bigger projects will merge, will take over the smaller one. So I think it's that's how you see that. I don't take it as the best practice, as a model that every country, region in the world will follow, because the condition is not the same, and it depends very much on the uniqueness of the Chinese government organization, government system. And that relates to the last point of what is the uniqueness of this approach. I think that's the unique phenomena and unique cause of this process. Governments engaged and connected, coordinate somehow coordinate, but compete. If I use the term cooperation, competition and cooperation, it describes exactly the relationship among Chinese governments. And the unique reason is Chinese government structure. You have the central government, the local governments also compete, but coordinate, but they also have to follow the instruction from the central government, but also negotiate the resources, etc., with central government. And so that is a unique reason. But the unique approach, I think it's up to us as researcher, to analysts, to discover what is the uniqueness of that. For me, the unique part of this approach is that I summarize as holistic approach. It's a holistic approach, because if you check what we call innovation policy, you don't have one single policy in China is called innovation policy. You not even have a document to say innovation policy of central government, innovation policy of Guangdong province. There is nothing called superficially innovation policy. So, but you have all kinds of policies, trade policy, industrial policy, land policy. Every policy is, and you have some parts of that policy which has a influence, has the connection with the innovation policy. It is up to us later as a researcher. I summarize, I say, okay, so this part, that part, I put them together. I give them a label, which is called the Chinese local government's innovation policy. I would like to rather use that innovation policy practice of the governments than they use the formal name of innovation policy. So for me, the unique approach is very holistic, very holistic and pragmatic way of doing things. To say we have the transformation from project to platform. So platform is one spot, one part, one post, which we will arrive. And then another post is that at another level, it's the ecosystem. Let me explain this. I don't know whether it's unique or not, because very culturally rooted, is that you have the Chinese local officials. And most of the Chinese local officials, they are not as scholars like me, like you, like people that we do research. We have clear concepts. And then you have the central governments says suddenly that we will build innovation platforms. How to build that? What is the meaning of innovation platform? Not so clear, okay? And we should reinforce and construct the ecosystem. So the central governments, in terms of policy, give a very big and orientation. In Chinese, it's called the policy compass, 政策方针, policy compass. That means I give you a big orientation. Please go there. Please, how you go there, and what is the goal? You tell me. So the local governments is that when they have this, when they receive this message, they must do something. So they will search. They'll say, what is the meaning of a platform? More or less, they have some idea. And then when they negotiate and meet the projects actors, the thing is that the governments just to say, give me a platform project, I will approve that. If it's not a project, I already have this manufacturing project. So it is this kind of how to say a kind of unknowing of the situation, unknowing of the final target, and just to do it. I ask for that, and people then try to figure out and then try to come out with that, and then you have the result. So to some degree, the result is unanticipated result. It is not the so maybe that's it's but at this moment it is the result. You have the results over here.
Thanks a lot, Zhao. We can continue this conversation. Thanks a lot for your
Thank
time.
you. Yeah, I try to that, but I don't think that I.
So much food for thought in your presentation. I was just wondering about the experimental governance and other. There are so many theoretical issues. When you mentioned practice, there is a lot of things that we can reflect on that. Just to, I think we have more couple of minutes just to check whether there is still someone who'd like to raise a question, or can we?
I think Patricia Rivero wrote some comment there, if you can read it.
She wrote here. Okay.
In the chat. Perhaps she wants to speak.
Yes, because thank you for your presentation. Very interesting, very complex, because there are a lot of things that we can discuss, as Antonio told. But I was thinking about the consequences for example, in the social sense. In the social consequences to introduce this model in these regions in relation with the population. How is the population is integrated in this system? What could be the consequences in terms of changes in the values of the people, in the values, in the culture, in the Chinese culture? I was thinking in this, there is some contradictions between the new values of innovation and market and the very pragmatical thing of way of Chinese people, Chinese population. And also I was thinking about the changes in the environment, about the sustainability, for example, because this kind of ecosystem produced a lot of urban changes, as you showed. usual. And I was thinking about this, and maybe the government, the different levels of governments will take some measures to reduce the effects of these changes over the environment, and how is working this. There is a discussion in the political levels over these topics or not. I was so curious about this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Patricia. It's a difficult question for me to have this to answer the in general, but I'll try. I would say that for the concepts of, for example, platform and ecosystem, in Chinese culture and Chinese research, we didn't have that. And that kind of platform ecosystem concept, they were introduced in the Chinese culture. They were introduced in the Chinese culture, first by academia, and then to the government, and then the governments will make communication, propaganda, and all that. So you have an impact immediately on the whole society of these two concepts. Because if you go to China right now, you want to do business, I'm sure in 90% of the situation that people will ask you, is your project a platform project? Are you going to construct a platform? Is the platform business model your model? And because it's so popular, it's not only the government talking about this concept of platform. You have Alibaba, Tencent, all the big giant techs, tech giants in China, they are platform companies. We talk about the platform economy, platform companies, e-commerce, digital transformation. So all this, I think that you have a huge impact on the commercial and social values of people. So people are pro concepts of platforms. And so sometimes it's even abused. So the traditional way of doing things, this is outdated. We should do it. We should do it in a platform way. The platform, as I said, it's a guiding thought. It's a way of thinking right now for rampant in Chinese society. So I think that's very much pro concept of ecosystem. The same is ecosystem, the platform and the ecosystem, the same. So everybody talks about, every government at level talking about the ecosystem. Look, I participated in one meeting in Huawei, and you have a senior manager, vice president of Huawei said, we only do two things today, Huawei. We do first platform, second ecosystem. And then you check what is the meaning for Huawei, their platform, their ecosystem. And then you get that. You have another guy who will tell you this. But I think that changed quite much. If you call that a kind of innovation or platform, ecosystem, popularity, culture, I would say yes. You have a Westernized term, which are very popularized in Chinese orientation of doing business and of behaving. And in terms of this sustainability part, yes, that's a big part. Also in the Chinese policy, the Chinese government, they officially they say that we would like to have more environmental protection projects. So you in this development of the segments of the different industrial segments, environmental and sustainability projects, they give priority. Of course, it's better that you have a platform form. And the other side is that the Chinese companies, many companies, they are trying to develop some technologies in that field. But from the company's perspective, I should say their orientation and their priority is not sustainability. So their priority for these business people and the technical people creating their business, they're in a traditional way of doing business. We do in a new approach, platform ecosystem, but the purpose is that we want to earn profits, market share, have the sales, and have economic returns. That is the number one concern for all. And government should know this. Government, they knew the priority, they knew the concern of the companies. So that's why they use the main, if you say the main policy instrument is money, budget, money. I can leverage the bank's credits to you. I can give you the money from my funds. I can introduce you to another investor funds. I can bring you a lot of money. I can reward you by money and by the land. It's with money that you can do a lot. So still the negotiation is very much about the commercial and the economic return of the project instead of the sustainability concern. China takes sustainable development as one industrial sector. It is one of the sector. I think this is very different from the mentality that we have in France. Is that it's a transcending guiding line for many things. In China, it's not the guiding line. Chinese governments and the business people say take it as a business sector. So design a platform project, doing that, but in order to gain money. Of course, the byproduct, the effects is environment sustainability. But first of all, your company, your projects must be competitive in the market. So based on your market competitiveness, you develop that sustainability project. I think this is the Chinese way of taking sustainability as one business sector, as one industrial, technological, or commercial sector to develop. That is my observation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think this was our last question. Thank you very, very much, Wei. I'm going to send you my comments in writing for you, some other aspects which I couldn't. And it was a really impressive presentation, and I hope we can, well, meet at SASE also, but I do hope we can in the future do something together in terms
of course.
Yeah, this would be.
I think that's when the pandemic finishes, I'll go back to China. I already applied to move to Shanghai to teach there and work there permanently for our school in France. I hope that my school can approve my project, and so I can, once the situation has improved, that I can go back there and work there. So that I can, if it happens, welcome to China. I will receive you there. Otherwise, I always can meet you somewhere virtually or physically in the place.
That's great. That's great news, because I plan to go to China in 2023, January, and between January and March. And this is going to be a holiday trip, but I like to combine some other academic issues also. Well, thank you very much, and thank you all the participants and the very inspiring questions. And as I said, this will be available on a YouTube channel, and I send you the link to all of you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you next time.
Thank you. See you next time. Take care.
Take care.